Don't think just because you've got some results you can negotiate terms with me. In front of me, you're nothing but an ant. Those words came from a PhD advisor, said to his own student's face. One line, you're nothing but an ant, shredded 6 years of patience and dignity. One PhD student's brutal road to graduation pulls back the curtain on academic power abuse. On July 22, a PhD student whose IP address traced to Chongqing posted a video on Douyin, laying the whole thing bare. He said he'd spent 6 years on his PhD, written the required papers, passed the required exams, met every hard graduation requirement the school set, and cleared both blind review and external review. All that was left was his advisor's final signature, and that signature never came. The student said that over those 6 years, most of his time went to things that had nothing to do with his dissertation. Writing business reports for his advisor, compiling grant applications, handling reimbursements for the lab, picking up packages, booking tickets, receiving visitors, odd jobs, even his advisor's personal errands, it all became part of his job. Even in the middle of that around-the-clock grind, he still managed to carve out time. He finished and published 2 papers in Tier 2 core journals. By the school's own rules, he'd long since met every condition to graduate. But every time he brought up graduating with his advisor, the answer was always the same. The project isn't wrapped up, the research isn't polished enough, the data needs more work. At one point, the advisor even laid it out bluntly. The outside project took priority over his personal graduation. The project couldn't be put on hold. When he tried to pull back, the advisor used his accepted paper as leverage. He claimed he could get it retracted. That one word, ant, shredded whatever dignity was left. The conflict finally exploded in their most recent conversation. The moment the advisor said those words, whatever was left of their bond, any mutual respect, shattered completely. Don't think just because you've got some results you can negotiate terms with me. In front of me, you're nothing but an ant. After the line spread online, many commenters said the same thing. Watch It left them with a knot in their chest. Someone who'd spent 6 years on a PhD, who'd pulled countless all-nighters writing papers and running experiments, in the end his advisor didn't even see him as a person in his own right. This time the student didn't hold back. He compiled everything, chat logs, work records, proof of his paper's acceptance, and recordings of their conversation, and laid out the entire ordeal publicly on Douyin. He said he'd run out of options, but he wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. He had to fight for his rights, and fight hard. How can one advisor single-handedly block a student's graduation? A lot of people were baffled. Doesn't the school have clear graduation rules? How does an advisor get to call all the shots? In university labs, the advisor is usually the project's principal investigator. How research funds get spent, who gets access to the lab, how authorship gets ordered, whether the degree paperwork gets signed, most of that power sits in one person's hands, the advisor's. The relationship between student and advisor is unequal from the very start. What's more, for some advisors, PhD students are simply the best deal for labor in the whole lab. Training a PhD student isn't cheap, but putting them to work on projects still costs far less than hiring full-time research. And PhD students are usually more compliant. The moment a student graduates and leaves, the lab loses a skilled hand. So some advisors choose to hold on to that labor by delaying graduation. The better you perform, the less willing he may be to let you go. And the price of a delayed graduation is one outsiders rarely grasp. A delayed PhD isn't as simple as just staying in school one more year. The cost of living is right there staring at you, no real salary, and barely any stipend. Rent, food, every bit of it comes out of your own pocket. And if you miss the job hunting window, most employers only want fresh graduates. Once that chance is gone, it rarely comes back. Even more agonizing is the anxiety that never seems to end. Not knowing when you'll graduate, not knowing if you'll even still be at the school next year. It's as if your entire life is stuck in limbo. This is Chen's China Prism. Now let's look at what one commentator had to say.
So now that you know about this, how does it make you feel? There's this PhD student who just couldn't take it anymore and went public on a short video platform about 6 years of being exploited by his advisor. Once you watch a video like that, you start to understand why we can't produce real talent. And even when we do have talent, it ends up fleeing elsewhere. The reason is simple. In our education system right now, it might look like education on the surface, but underneath, it runs on the exact same system as any other state-run institution, the exact same rules of the game, the exact same cultural baggage. Right? And that's exactly why an advisor like this one has that kind of power in his hands, right? So he's going to hold you back. Bottom line, he's using you as free labor, using you as someone who works for him. But he never once considers what's happening in your own life. He only thinks about himself. So with these rules of the game, this cultural rot, this social climate, what does it lead to? The genuinely talented people, who might not know how to play the social game, end up deliberately targeted or pushed out by certain advisors. While the mediocre ones, who do know how to play the game, they're the ones who get promoted instead. That's just how it works. So that's why so much of our talent, the moment they go abroad, they're winning awards left and right, shining immediately. But over here, they get buried instantly. That's the reason. It's also why so many schools can't even solve their cafeteria problem. One cafeteria scandal pops up, then another one. Because whoever holds the power wants to cash in on it. If you've got the power, you look out for your own interests first. So on the surface it looks like an education problem, but underneath, it's really cultural rot. It's the rules of the game, and it's an ideological problem. So unless those three things change, problems like this will never get solved. And it's not just education, you could probably say the same about soccer, basketball, all of it. They all grow out of the same rules of the game, the same social divides, the same culture of corruption. Think about it carefully, isn't that exactly how it is? It's the same in every other industry, every institution. Wherever there are people, there's politics. Once we look past the surface, we should see exactly where the problem lies. Feel free to share your thoughts.